Welcome back. It's Phyllis Schlafly Collegians Summit. We're going virtual one more year. Next year we'll be back in the presence of each other. 28th annual. We've been doing this for 28 years, and it's a great privilege. We have thousands of folks watching live right now. I'll mention in a moment where you can send questions or comments. We've got an intern combing through and making sure we get those to us. I'll see them on the sheet over here. So please do that. If you're watching on a videotape, or I guess it's on recording later, please feel free to go to phyllisschlafly.com, and if you have comments or questions about what we're doing. These collegiate events are meant to, as I said earlier, to fortify, educate about what's going on, also get some tips from people that are in the trenches, and build a community of folks that want to keep doing well and fighting. The fight worth fighting is the theme of this year's Collegians, the fight worth fighting. Our next guest is a friend of ours. He's been at our Phyllis Schlafly Eagles events, Eagle Council a few years ago, maybe Collegians too. And I remember Burgess Owens, at one point he sent us this great photograph of him. I think you were knocking down the pass in the Super Bowl, right? He won a Super Bowl ring, which has got to be. Is there anybody else in Congress that's won a Super Bowl?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Most of them are most of them are dorks, right? In Congress, you don't want to say that.
I won't say that. No,
you don't want to say
I'm
that.
very proud to be part of that great group. That's for sure.
But Burgess Owens, he was just telling us at home in Utah, he represents the 4th District. He's got 6 children and how many grandchildren?
15 grands.
15 grands, and all in his district. As John Schlafly tried to point out, that's probably why he won. He was able to hold all those votes, so we won't get into that. But his most recent book, Why I Stand, From Freedom to the Killing Fields of Socialism. He, as I mentioned, he played for the Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets. He won a Super Bowl. He got out of the NFL and then started a business and has been involved in lots of different things, written books. But Burgess Owens, I want to ask you this question. On June 11th, you tweeted, quote, "Critical race theory creates more racism, not less." Now, you're allowed to answer that question or say that because of the way the world is.
Yeah.
But talk about that, because these young kids in college are just flooded by either critical race theory specifically or that whole mindset.
We have to understand, and thanks again. So good seeing you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
But we have to remember what our foundation has always been in our country. Judeo-Christian values has done one thing better than any other country in the history of mankind. Every generation looks at each other better from inside out versus outside in. And I grew up in a time of segregation, KKK, Jim Crow, where critical race theory was alive and well. And that's when people, young kids like myself, were taught to judge each other by their skin color. And my generation had to deal with that. I was one of the first blacks to go to this particular high school, the 3rd black to go to the University of Miami.
Wow.
Part of that process was not being able to develop relationships because we had to overcome the prejudice of our fathers, which taught us to judge each other based on our race. And I'll say the thing that I now realize, I've gone back to talking to my friends that came through that process with me, how much we regretted that we couldn't have the same environment we have today, where we can have fun, we can date, all those things that now happen when people judge each other based on content. And what I don't want to have happen is that our kids, our grandkids, ever have to regret that they have to overcome the races of their fathers. Right now, critical race theory is basically trying to steal our history, trying to steal what makes us great. It was Karl Marx who said the first battleground is the writing of history. When you steal our history as Americans, we steal pride in our past, our appreciation for our present, and our vision for the future. And that's what we're seeing happening. As good people, black Americans are turned into racists. They've been told to blame somebody else for every mistake they've made, to judge other people based on skin color. At the same time, they don't want to be judged themselves that way. So it is a very devious, a very evil process. It's something we need to fight with everything we can possibly fight with. I will never stand by and watch our country go back to the 60s. Let me just say a couple things just to make that point. I came into the NFL in 1973, and at that time, black Americans were not allowed to play the smart white men thinking positions. Quarterbacks, centers, middle linebackers, free safeties were not black positions. They were white positions. Because that was, quote, it took an intelligence, it took a leadership that blacks were told we could not do that. We've gotten past that. We're now in NFL, because of meritocracy, any position that you can play and win, you deserve, and you get paid big bucks for it.
Right.
We just had 2 weeks ago found out the NFL. This is really where you find the biggest problems. Critical race theory is found in NFL. Racism is found in NFL. We found out 2 weeks ago that the NFL has been paying black athletes less for the same brain injuries than white players, because they have an algorithm. They have a race norm is what they call it, in which they start off with blacks being less intelligent, and therefore the baseline is much lower. So you have to have a much stronger, a much worse injury to get the same pay.
All right.
Now they've admitted to it, but I want to make this point. It's the same woke corporations that okay with BLM, Black Lives Matter. They destroy black businesses and black lives in urban communities. It's the same NFL and people like that are trying to divide us based on those differences. So we have to recognize that what makes our country the greatest in the history of mankind, those first three words, we the people. And once we the people begin to talk, begin to see how much we have in common, we just win, and that's what we're looking for.
Did you say you were the third black man to be a football player at the University of Miami?
Yep,
that became Miami. You know the U and all that. All these guys that love it, and
I was there before they became the U.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. but do you ever go to they have reunions where you go to see like Michael Irvin, all these SAP? These guys are wild, man.
It was a great. It was a good school to go to. Obviously, I'm very proud of what they've become.
Yeah.
I was there when we were just training ourselves to be eternal optimists. Either we won 2 or 3 games a season, so either you became optimistic or you had to let it all go. But it was a good experience for me.
So critical race theory, or no, different question. It seems to me the greatest racists in America are the white Democrats who control inner city schools.
Yeah.
Is there anything close?
Well, I'll say this again, and I like to make a point that many Americans don't know about the black community. We were just like every other community in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. See, what made our country what it is this idea of meritocracy. Is the idea that we can command respect by winning, not demand, not beg, but command by winning. And every race felt the same way. So you had, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even though there was not a lot of assimilation, you had the Italian, you had the Jewish, you had the Polish communities, still separate, but because we believed in meritocracy, we were proud to be Americans, and the way we wanted to show ourselves our value was by winning. The point that a lot of people don't know because we've not been taught that, the black community bought in big time. They bought into faith, education, family, and free market. I grew up in this environment, and what the result of that was we led the country in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. We led the country in the growth of the middle class. Men matriculated from college because education was our doorway, our gateway. Men committed to marriage. It was 70% of black men committed to the mothers of their children. When I was growing up, if a guy didn't do that, they were looked at as a lowlife. We looked at as a whiner, weenie, and wimp that wasn't able to stand up and do what you're supposed to do. And we also led the country in percentage of entrepreneurs, over 40%. Now, those numbers I just gave the black community when I was growing up in the 60s, 50 to 60% of black Americans were part of the middle class. We did not believe in government handouts.
Right.
We believed in, I look around and I saw all these business owners everywhere, black hospitals, black nurses, black doctors. My point is, if we ever were to learn that lesson and learn our history, then we will come together. The greatest danger, or I'll say the greatest threat to my community in those days were not white supremacists, it was black elitists. People look like me, sound like me, were like matadors that opened the door and let these leftists, these socialists come in and turn our country, my community upside down. And that's why I'm so passionate to not let what happened to my great community happen to our great country. This is nothing new. Divisiveness, lack of education, lack of job opportunities, telling people that our country is not for them, it tears us away from the fabric of what makes our country great. And they've done it to my community, they can do it to our country, and that's why we have to fight against that.
John just sent me a question. He wanted to know if you'll let us hold the Super Bowl ring. Do you ever take it off?
I take it off all the time.
Can we see it while we're on here? Yeah. John, you have a question? I want to try on the Super Bowl ring here.
It's going to be a perfect fit, I can tell you that.
You have a question?
You try it on.
Well, oh, man.
Perfect fit.
Look at that. Look at that. That's serious.
Oh, by the way, I have to always, because we have a lot of young people here.
Yeah.
The Raiders used to win football games, believe it or not. They really did.
University of Miami didn't win back then, and the Raiders used to win. I got you. All right.
It's a whole different ball.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball. Go ahead, John. I'm going to wear this for a while. Go ahead.
Well, Burgess, I wonder if you can comment on how the professional sports leagues, on all the different sports, have gone left. Yeah. And they used to be a way to unite Americans of all beliefs and all faiths. But we've seen how the National Basketball Association is gone left, and they've gone to China, basically.
Yeah.
We've seen how the Major League Baseball has launched a campaign against proper voting regulations in the state of Georgia and took the All-Star game away. And I'm not sure if the NFL is quite that bad yet?
Well,
or
they
maybe
kneeled,
you know, but-
the kneeling
No,
thing. They
they're
got, remember
bad.
Well,
Kaepernick.
They're that
Well,
bad.
Kaepernick, and then you look into the women's soccer. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but what about the professional sports leagues? This is a big part of our country,
Yeah.
and what has happened to it?
Well, that's the reason why I'm on the Ed and Labor Committee. What I've come to understand is that education is everything, John.
Hold that up to, there you go. No, hold it up to Madeline so she can take a picture there.
Education is everything. We've been under attack for decades. The hard left, the socialists, the Marxists, they find the soft underbelly of our nation. They find those places where they can burrow in deep like little termites, and there's no threat. So whether it be entertainment, whether it be professors who get tenure and they can never be fired, whether it be bureaucrats who get into our government and you never know who they are, I call them bullies and cowards, and they've been going after our kids for a long time. We're seeing right now in the leadership of all these corporations are young people who grew up, went through college, and they were taught to hate our nation, that socialism was okay, and to make themselves really the end game. Our country has been built the way it has been because we've always believed that a God in heaven. We believe every generation has looked at their kids as being the most important group and generation. So they'll sacrifice anything, including going to war to do that.
Right.
We have people now in corporations that care more about profits, going to China, bringing in these indoctrinations of a different ideology. So yes, every one of these folks just talked about these leagues. We have to, as a country, push back. We have the free market. We need to be principled, and those companies that do not respect us as customers, we need to prove that and show that. So I would say this: we have an opportunity right now as a nation. I would say 2020. We can look back, as painful as it was probably the most important time that we've had now in modern history, because we have a chance now, just like in 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. It's called contrast. We're waking up out of this freedom bubble and realize that we're under attack. So we're having conversations today that we never would have had if not been 2020.
Yeah.
Mothers are talking about education. We're all talking about business ownership that we were shut down. We're talking about not being able to go to church. Those freedoms that we just took for granted. We're realizing how fragile that is. And no matter what side of the aisle we're on, whether Democrat, Independent, or Republican, we're finally talking about the fact that we can never, ever let that happen again.
Two quick questions. We're saying we're with Burgess Owens. Congressman Burgess Owens represents Utah's 4th District. His book, by the way, is Why I Stand From Freedom to the Killing Fields of Socialism. Before we get to my last two questions, you going to write another book? You should be writing a book like how an NFL guy fit in the swamp or something. You know, Massey's up next. Congressman Thomas Massey. He had like a movie made with him on the swamp stuff. Are you going to write another book about what you're doing?
I'm not sure. I got to get that feeling. But I'll say this. I will say this. If I did write a book, it'd be how proud I am to work with guys like Tom and the rest of the group that I am. I'm so proud to be part of this remarkable group of men and women who love our country, and we're here at the right time. Can I just say this? We're all here at the right time. We have to realize this. One of the things that Al Davis was able to do when I was playing is create this culture, of second chances, a culture of folks, guys who were too rambunctious, too wild, whatever for the team, just right for the Raiders. Because his idea was very simply, just win, baby.
Yeah.
And once you got there, you gave it all.
Yeah.
I think right now across the country, we have to recognize we're now part of a team. And instead of there's many who've been in the stands for a long time, many on the sideline, we now realize we need to all be on the field. Whatever our talents might be, whatever we can bring to the plate. This platform you give me right now, those who maybe just give $20, those who might just be patient and talk to their friend and get them to understand that left is not the way they need to be. We're all part of that team. We need to do that.
So now this is interesting to me. Al Davis, who was a wild character himself, and Burgess Owens, who is you're not I don't say a straight-laced guy, but you're a churchman with 6 kids, like your faith. Were you close with him?
You know, no one got really close with Al. I will say this: Al was one of the greatest owners to play for. To work for him might have been a little different, and the administration, because he was all about winning.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: of all the things that I will look back on that really made a difference to me, thank goodness they saw me. They thought I could add value. They drafted me and they traded for me. And thank goodness my last 3 years was a Raider. And what you'll find, those guys who played in the Raider organization, any period of time, the saying is true: once a Raider, always a Raider, because of the culture of winning and doing your best and giving it all at that time.
So now you were at the U of Miami when they lost, and then they became the rock stars, and then the Raiders moved to Vegas. All the places you go end up in Party Central. I don't know what's going on here, Burgess. All right, last question. What motivates you to keep up the fight? You know, you got a lot of things already done in your life. You could go home and watch all those grandbabies, and what
a great question. And I'll say very simply, I was raised by a generation that was just remarkable. I was raised by a generation. My dad went to war, came back, successful entrepreneur, professor, mentor. But they taught us something very simple about our country. First of all, to love it, to never let that flag touch the ground, and very simply, if you truly want to show how much you love the flag, then love God, country, family, and respect women in authority. That's what I was raised with. That's what I raised my family to do. And I want to make sure that my kids have a chance to experience the same thing in my great-grandkids. And to do that, we have to get our country back. We have to once again teach those who don't know our nation, who've been trained to hate our nation, that this is the greatest place to be in the history of mankind. So my mission, very simply, is one that I'm thankful I got from my dad. You know, you live your life to leave a legacy. And that legacy, believe it or not, will not be this.
No.
It really will not be.
Yeah.
It will be what I do with these guys here, the difference we can make, fighting off this evil that we're now seeing coming at us, and making sure this next generation feels the way I do about living in a country that gives us so many opportunities and overcoming our obstacles.
Well, Burgess Owens, congratulations on being in Congress and surviving the swamp and keeping that joy. So it's great, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much for this invite.
We consider him one of ours because we had him at our stuff before he became a big shot or a bigger shot. So I've started at the beginning. I said he had these pictures of him knocking down a pass in the Super Bowl, which he signed at one of our councils, and everybody snapped up, I think at the auction or something. So Burgess Owens, thanks very much. We're going to put up a little video of our next guest is Congressman Thomas Massie, and this is him speaking, and we'll put that up as we switch out. Trade. It's not a good trade. We have to trade Burgess Owens for Thomas Massie. Well, it's not equal, but we'll be right back.